Okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. It's officially 8:30 p.m. My name's Ron. I'm an alcoholic. How you all doing? Coming into the holiday season, happy holidays, everybody. Hope they're enjoying them. And last week we had our December to Remember spiritual banquet conference. It was amazing. Oh, what a great bunch of speakers. We have them all listed on YouTube. Take the time to, if you can, they'll pay great dividends to listen to them and share them with other people. And if you've never got a chance to do that, we'll be doing another one of them in April. They're all free, and lives have changed there, and it's very powerful. But it's even powerful to listen to it even on the recording, so we record all speakers. We have probably, I don't know what we're up to now, 600-800 people on our YouTube channel with over 300,000 views. So there's a lot of people that are getting used to that. Anyway, with that, we have a first-time chairman tonight. He claims to be the best chairman in all of AA. Let's please welcome Tom.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Tom and I'm an alcoholic. All right, this is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. Food and fellowship starts at 8, speaker at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7, from 7 to 7:30, right here. So please come early and join us. All right, the purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town who would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Hi, welcome.
It's my first meeting here.
Welcome. Hi.
Hi, my name is Kelly and I'm an alcoholic. It's my first time here. Welcome.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, I'm Mike, I'm an alcoholic. It's not my first time recovering, but happens to me today, so thank you.
Welcome.
My name is Ethan, I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome. Anyone else? Great. All right, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. All right. All right, any announcements for the good of AA? Okay. Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street in Doylestown. Coffee is at 6:15. We have a meeting list and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Speaker Group of Doylestown, PA, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share, and you can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed and to share upcoming events and meetings. All right, and now for the Just Today Prayer of Recovery, Brian.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. This is Just for Today, a prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly. Talk low, act courteously. Criticize not one bit. Not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, we're going to bring JJ up here. JJ is going to read the AA preamble.
My name is JJ, I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. The AA preamble.
Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem to help each other to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supported through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organizations, or institutions. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. I have asked Mary Rose to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery. Warm welcome to Mary Rose.
Where are they? Good evening. My name is Mary Rose, grateful alcoholic, and I'm going to read the 12 steps. Oh, and welcome home. Okay. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And then I would like to turn the meeting back over to Tom.
Okay, 7th edition, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops, etc. Thank you. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, we have Jeremy T. from Rhode Island. Please give him a hand.
Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy, I'm an alcoholic. Hi. I'd like to thank my friend Ron for asking me. I'd like to thank the group for having me. It's a privilege and an honor to speak at any meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I get to do things like this every now and then, so it feels a little special, a little more special than your average meeting. But it's great to be here. I was here some I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. So yeah, what it was like, what happened, and what I am like today. So I don't know if I was born an alcoholic. I don't think we really need to figure it out. But the reason I bring it up is I'm pretty sure I had this thing that we now label, it's in our literature, the spiritual malady. I'm pretty sure, I don't really know for sure, but I'm pretty sure I had that from day one. There's a lot of evidence that I had that. First and foremost, I'm a twin. So my twin brother Jonathan, I remember my dad, he said his first memory, he saw us both. He was not allowed in the delivery room. And he looked down and he saw his two sons, and there was Jonathan sleeping soundly and peacefully. And then there was Jeremy screaming his head off. And I remember when I had the night I had 2 years sober, I went over to my parents' house for dinner, and he's like, "You were just born angry." And I thought it was very, heartfelt. Thanks, Dad. And he said, basically, you never stopped. And it was this, and the man wasn't wrong. It was just this internal unrest. Like I just did not feel okay inside. I was never enough, no matter what we could be looking at. Like I was never tall enough, never was good enough, never smart enough. It was just this feeling of not being enough. And from a very young age, I started to accrue these things we call resentment. And it didn't take me long. And I just started to build this, this wall, brick by brick of resentment. And so very early on, I can remember, probably one of the oldest and one of the biggest was I wasn't a very good reader and writer or speller from a very young age. I had difficult, and of course I blame my parents because, they're never helping me with my homework, and I don't get a bedtime story. They don't read to me. And so I'm obviously not very good at reading and writing. Eventually, they made a decision to hold me back in the second grade, and I was mortified. I just, it felt my whole world was collapsing, and right then and there I knew, first of all, I was stupid. Like I remember showing up for the first day of second grade again. People were all laughing at me, so I'm an idiot, I'm stupid. But like I said, I'm a twin. So you can't leave one twin back without leaving the other. So they held him back too. So not only was I stupid, but it was all my fault. And, just as time went on, even before this, I can remember, and we're about to come upon the holiday season. It's already Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah, Christmas is right around the corner. So I remember from a very early age, I was very mad at Santa because I didn't get what I wanted for Christmas. And I thought because I wanted it, I should have it. So I started getting mad at him. And, I saw that, Santa handwriting looked an awful lot like my mother's too. So then I was mad at them. But it really spiraled. I'm like, it's crazy, like the mind of a resentful child, because I was like, well, if Chris is, my mom is writing all this and Santa Claus is not even real, and if Santa Claus is not real, then there's no such thing as the Easter Bunny, there's no such thing as an Easter Bunny, then there was no resurrection, Jesus is false, and there's no God, because I didn't get what I wanted for Christmas. And so here I am. My parents don't care about me, they don't spend time with me, I'm stupid, it's all my fault, and there is no God. Other than that, childhood was great. It's awesome. Set up for success. And on and on it went. And the reason I mention all this is because, we can relate to the drinking, but the places that I took myself to and how I felt, I remember that was some of the first things that I could identify with other people sharing in AA. And like I described earlier, what it was like to have a spiritual malady, I didn't know it at the time, is all I could describe it as is I'm uncomfortable. And I wouldn't even tell you that, because I would have told you, I'm fine, but internally, not fine. And so this low-level discomfort was going all the time, but I didn't actually even really know it, because it was pretty much all I ever experienced. And I didn't have the worst childhood ever. I didn't. And there was, some happy times and some fun, but more or less I'm always uncomfortable. But I had no idea how uncomfortable I was until I got comfortable. And the first time I got comfortable was the first time I got drunk. Now, I had stayed away from alcohol, drugs, and people that drank and took them for a good amount of, my middle school. I had a lot of people that drank and used before I did. And then I was at a high school party. My sister was in high school. I think I was 14, maybe 15. And there was this girl there, and she liked me. And I didn't like this girl, but she liked me, so thus I'm okay inside. Somebody likes me. And she asked me if I wanted a drink, and it wasn't peer pressure, but I just said yes. And it was a very strong screwdriver. And somewhere before finishing that drink, I had an unquenchable thirst for more. And I started to drink everything that I could get my hands on. And, I got totally drunk and embarrassed myself. And pissed off my sister, ruined the whole party. I made out with that girl on the couch. I'm pretty sure I got to second base. And it was really embarrassing because it was the little kid, who invited him? Ruined the whole high school party, and it was just bad. I had the worst hangover the next morning I've ever had to date. It was just, I got in a lot of trouble. But I remember after a few drinks in, I'm going to the makeshift bar and I'm about to make myself yet another drink, and something clicked. I had a moment and I stopped and I had an epiphany. I realized how good I felt. I could breathe in and out and everything was okay. Jeremy was enough. And I had thought that I honestly stopped and told myself, like I realized I never knew you could actually feel this good. I'd never been comfortable before, ever, that I could remember. And the thought that immediately preceded that was, I wonder if you can feel like this all the time. So prior to this experience, I have a low opinion of alcohol, drinkers. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm trying to be like healthy and on the up and up and do good, even though I'm not a good student. I have one experience, I want to feel like this always. So that's what I mean when I was set up for success. It just seemed like I had the gift. You know, not everybody else reacted that way. So I'm a drinker all of a sudden. Now I drink, and shortly thereafter this, I got into a huge argument with my dad. I grabbed my coat, I ran away from home. I stayed away for, a while. I developed a near bottle a day habit. I tried 4 or 5 drugs in less than a week leaving, and I was off and running. And that was the rest of high school. Eventually, I went home and I graduated high school. I chose the path of least resistance, went to the local community college. But I grew up in Rockland County, New York. So that's right above Bergens. That's outside of 30 minutes outside, New York City. And you can drink till 4 o'clock in the morning in New York. And I, went to community college. We started partying in the city, going to shows, clubs, bars, parties. And you can find whatever you want. And I had arrived. This was it. I party all the time. I got a full-time, I'm going to school full-time. I got a girlfriend, I got a car. I'm working full-time. I thought I was so cool. And, people, I'd show up to the club. People knew my name. I was important. I matter. And just this gigantic ego. And then, after 2 years of that, I went upstate New York to a real university. And there, my drinking took on more serious proportion. And real university was a little bit harder to, be a daily drunk there. Community college is like 13th grade, so I was like, this is real. So it's difficult. So my solution is I kept withdrawing from classes, and my master plan was like, I had this girlfriend at the time, and she had this bad pain condition, and she was on pain management. And so I had a really serious fake injury. It's very serious. And so it seemed like I should be on pain management too. So we both did that and doctor shopping, and that escalated to a lot of criminal activity after several months, maybe in a year or two. A lot of round trip visits to the glorious Paterson, New Jersey, and smuggling all sorts of stuff. And bottom line is, I had a terrible summer. I spent all my money and other people's money, and just a lot of criminal activity. I was in a lot of trouble, and I crashed and burned, and everybody found out what was going on too. So I got shuffled into detox, and I kind of wanted that because I was sick, sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it was true. It was horrible. I was sick all the time, But so I got shoved into detox, and which was okay with me. But my plan was, go to detox, get off the sauce, because that's my real problem, and I'll just go back to my old life of partying in New York City and just doing whatever I wanted to, and just everything will be fine because it's my plan. And if it's my plan, it must be good because I thought it. Detox had a different plan. And I was pretty sick and kind of willing, so I said, you know what, I'll give it a shot. They said, get out, go to 90 meetings in 90 days, get a sponsor, get a home group, get a job at that home group. And I said, okay. So I started doing all those things, and all went well for a time. It was pretty boring. I didn't really want to be at the Losers Club. And after somewhere in between, so I know I had got a 90-day chip. I know I didn't get it 6 months. Somewhere in between, the old idea that I can drink in safety came back. I did not know I had already lost the power of choice in drink. So whether I ever pick up a drink or not, it's not actually something I can weigh the pros and cons and make a decision to do so. I already suffered from a mental obsession. I just didn't know it. And I don't know, people might have been talking about it. I don't really remember it. I went to a lot of just open topic meetings, and I don't even think I got that book. Bottom line is, I've got a plan. I've always got a plan. And so I'm craving a drink, and I'm starting to share about it in meetings, and everybody's like, that's great, kid, keep coming, you know, and they're like, shoot for midnight, and I shot for midnight and made it another day, but I don't care, I still want a drink. You know, and I talk to people that are like, well, just don't drink no matter what. I'm like, okay. And eventually I was like, I'm out of here. And what I'm going to do is, because I was living right outside of New York again, so there's a fetish black and blue Halloween ball in New York. It's 3 days long. I'm going to go to this thing. I'm going to drink, and then everything's going to be fine. And, because I'm so smart, if it gets bad, I'll just go back to AA. I mean, the doors are always open. So off I go, and we, go to this thing, and I start drinking, and I had an awesome time. And the thing is, I immediately started feeling relief, because I had untreated alcoholism and didn't know it. So as an alcoholic, if you take alcohol away from me, I need another solution. And it has to work as good or better, or eventually I'll just go back to drinking, or I'll substitute, other substances, or I'll just kill myself. I can't do it. I cannot live in this sober world on my own. I didn't know any of that. All I know is I felt uncomfortable and sobriety sucks. So I started drinking, I feel better. Being drunk is awesome, sobriety sucks. That was like the moral of the night. And I had an amazing time. So there was this fetish model there that I had a crush on for 9 months before I got sober. She's there, she's a giant purple mohawk. So I started dancing and schmoozing with her. And there's a porn star there. She asked if she could come home with me. And this is my first night out, right? I didn't get stabbed, I didn't get shot, I didn't throw up, I didn't get thrown out. I drove home, I didn't get pulled over. I'm absolutely fine. I'm not bragging, I never slept with either one of those women, ever. Not just ever, but I remember, because when I'm drunk on the dance floor with all these girls, and I'm thinking to myself, I'd play the tape back to those meetings, like the old timer, the crouchy guy who, hates life, and you go back out there, it just gets worse. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, between the fetish model and the porn star, it just gets worse. I was like, I don't think so, Grandpa. But you keep coming. And it's important because this type of thinking is very clearly described in the big book and more about alcoholism. It says, at times, it seems that we have regained control. And it looked like that. It looked like I can control and enjoy my drinking. It says, while those times, usually brief, are followed by still less control, which lead in time to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. And that's exactly what happened. And I stayed out for 6 years, went to jail, institutionalized, I died, lost jobs, etc., etc. So, my goal was just to go back to school, finish school, then I'll finally grow up. I won't party so much. I'll have a real job. I'll get out of this college town that always brings me down, etc., etc. And I did all that. As soon as I graduated college, I was 24/7 round-the-clock daily drinker. I woke up every day drunk from the night before the onset of delirium tremens, unless I was using opiates, which was actually less common than drinking, but it was still pretty prevalent. And the mind and body are marvelous mechanisms, for mine endured that agony 2 more years. After graduating, I stayed in the same college town, doing the same college job, drinking 24/7 and partying. Even though the party was long over and nobody told me. And so a series of events, which I probably don't have time to go into in great detail, brought me to living in New England, where I now live, and getting back into sobriety. So, I got arrested, died a couple of weeks later, a series of events, and I got shuffled, and I had no place else to go. My car was off the road, and it's the typical country song woes. And so I got an invitation when my parents were retired to Vermont to go up there, stay with them, go to detox. I said, okay. And this time I meant business. The time that I died, one of the many times, but the last time, right before I got arrested, I went to the hospital, I left AMA, within hours, I had a needle on my arm and a bottle in my hand. Less than an hour later. It's just insanity. So I knew my life was probably going to be pretty lame and boring, but when I moved to Vermont, I was totally fine with being a sober person for the rest of my life. So I got a detox, and I took all those adjustments. I got a home group and a sponsor and a job in my home group. And all went well for a time. And, I liked it more than I thought. It was crazy, and everybody was old. And I wasn't trying to be insulting now or then, but, I was like 28, 29. I was from New York. I had a jet black mohawk, don't touch me. And like all these people, like everybody in my home group, the youngest people were 50 and older. Most of them were like 65 and 80 and all this other stuff. And then it was just like, but it was crazy. I loved it so much more than I wanted to admit. And everybody was so nice to me. And I got involved. And I remember the day I had 6 months, I was super grateful. And they told me a grateful heart would never drink. I was like, all right, that's cool. Made it 6 months. And that night I picked up. And I was like, I couldn't figure out why. Like, that's crazy. I didn't want to drink. Like, now I'm drinking when I don't want to. That doesn't make any sense. So I just assumed, because I knew almost nothing about alcoholism, that it was like a slight fault, like a temporary weakness. So I'll just redouble my efforts. So I went to more meetings, and I stayed up, I showed up early, and I stayed late, and I stacked a lot of chairs, and I made a lot of coffee. And then I drank again. And then I drank again. And again. Then I lied to the dentist and got some painkillers because that seemed medically indicated. And then I drank again and again. And like, I'm in AA with a sponsor and a home group and a commitment, and I can't figure out what the heck is wrong with me. I remember one time I went to 3 meetings in one day. I showed up early, I stayed late. I raised my hand, I called my sponsor. I just want to drink. Like, I don't want to drink anymore. And I just want to drink. And I woke up the next morning wondering, how did it all happen? I went to 3 meetings in one day. They said, keep coming. And I remember, like, at that third meeting, I heard a lot of things that, are kind of helpful, that may keep you in the door, but that don't really apply full-time to a real alcoholic. And they told me that meeting makers make it. In my experience as meeting makers, I made it to an awful lot of meetings, and I kept drinking. They said, Jeremy, just put the plug in the jug, and you'll be all right. My experience is I put the plug in the jug, and eventually I take it out, and I drink it, and I go get another jug. Because I can't not. Just don't drink no matter what. Whoa, that's deep. I drink no matter what. I can't not. That's actually what it means to be powerless, to have no choice in the matter whatsoever. It doesn't matter if it's inconvenient for me or you, I'm drinking. And I just don't understand it, and people aren't breaking it down to me, and it's not their fault. But that's just the facts of the matter. Nobody took me through that book. And so I'm drinking again and again, and I'm starting to get freed up. But I got to tell you, some of the, the truth behind that is, so I remember never mind, it's like the first time. The first time I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, the first AA meeting was that first detox. I was in a hospital ward, and I walked in, and I saw movies about meetings. You sit around in a circle, and you drink your bad coffee and your styrofoam cup, but I had no idea that it was a spiritual program. So I walk in, and I see these window shades, and it says higher power, and you turn your will and your life, and pray and meditate, and God, 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 God. And I was like, I'm all set. Good for you people, but like, this guy is just never going to happen. Like, I remember telling myself inside my head, I'm pretty sure I'd rather die than believe in your fake God, which is crazy because I went back out. I did die several times, and I come back to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not going to have it. I would have just, when I returned to AA in Vermont, I would have described myself as the guy who was violently anti-religious. I do not use the term lightly. I was extremely opposed to all spiritual matters. I could maybe get down with yoga, and that's about it. And I would, most of it was really petty, like I would never say, I'd say Gesundheit. Why, God bless, because that's religious. Stick it to him. Show you. But, I would listen to black metal very loudly as your church congregation got out on Sunday morning. Of course, I was just minding my own business with my windows down. And in the middle of the meeting, about a third of my body is covered in tattoos, and I would let people know that they were put there by Satanists in the meeting just to make them uncomfortable. Of course, it never even worked anyway. Those old timers are like, that's great, keep coming. And there was some more, sillier, petty stuff. Some Jehovah's Witnesses I needed to find, make amends, and there's some pretty brutal things that I said to some priests and maybe a nun or two. But bottom line is just like, I can't have it, and I'm not swallowing it. It's just never going to happen. And I get drunk again and again, and they're trying to help me, and they're talking about this higher power thing, and first of all, one, I'm not stupid. So when you say that, I know you mean God, and when you say that, I know you mean God. Not to mention like the higher power thing, I thought that was actually like a Vermont term. I didn't know, like it's in the book, they say that everywhere. I thought it was like, oh, higher power, kumbaya, go hug a tree. And I was like, no, not this guy. And I just can't wrap my head around something that I cannot swallow that pill. And I'm getting drunk again and again. And they're like, oh, your higher power, it's okay, it can be anything you want. I was like, I'm pretty sure I would like it to be nothing. Yeah. And then they said things like, oh, your higher power, it could be a light bulb. That's so stupid. Do you hear yourself? Light bulb? Light bulbs burn out and break. Is that your God? I just, anything I could do to just put it back in their place. There's this old guy, he just died. He was in my home group. He died about 49, 48 years sober. And I was always kid. And then he'd be like, hey, kid, you hitting your knees? Because they always told me to ask for help in the morning and say thank you at night. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. And yet I drank again. And, the relapses, there was probably like 10 or 11 of them within about a span of a year. And they're getting, worse and worse. It's not always just like, oh, I went out for a night. And so I'm getting pretty badly mangled, as the book talks about. So I had this idea that I like to share. Now, everything about this is all hindsight. So I didn't actually do anything with it, but I think it's pretty important to talk about, and I know it helps a lot of people. And it's textbook. It's just like in the book. It said there was a feeling of awe and wonder, but it was fleeting and soon lost. Come in and then... So I had this idea that this thing that I could do for a higher power. And so I was like this super nerdy dork. I didn't play a lot of sports in high school. I played Dungeons and Dragons. So that's how I got my geek on. So has anyone ever seen the movie Star Wars? Yeah? All right. So I thought I could make the Force my higher power. So what I know now and I didn't know then is in the movie Star Wars describes the Force. So what gives a Jedi Knight his power, right? In this book, lack of power. That was my dilemma. I had to find a power by which I could live, and it had to be a power greater than myself. Well, that makes sense. In the movie Star Wars, it says the Force binds the galaxy together, right? The galaxy. Several times it talks about higher power as the spirit of the universe in the big book. That makes sense. It says the Force is created by all living things, right? In the big book, God is everything, or He is nothing. What is your choice to be? That makes sense. In the movie Star Wars, it says a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him, right? In the big book, it says we felt new power flow in. Third step promise. That makes sense. So in one of the later movies, there's this guy, Luke, talking to this other dude, Yoda. That's his grand sponsor. And he's trying to find out if the dark side of the Force is more powerful than the light side. And what Yoda says, no, it isn't. But it is quicker and more seductive. Right? Talks about that in here too. We tried to find an easier and softer way, but we could not. Makes total sense. I also didn't know that George Lucas, when coming up with his conception of the Force, studied a lot of Eastern religions and philosophies. I mean, think about it. Yoda, Buddha, that's the same dude. I also didn't know that William James, who directly influenced AA members in the writing of the Big Book, he's cited in the back of it and referenced another time. He wrote a book called The Varieties of Religious Experience. And in the back of that book, he summed up all these religious and convergent experiences into one godlike phrase. And he simply called that the more. Capital M-O-R-E. The more. So if you don't know, William James, he's the father of American psychology. They literally named the college after him. If that guy can call it the more, then this guy can call it the Force. So, makes total sense. But I did nothing. Because all that remained of me is the vestiges of my old thinking, my old prejudices. And so as soon as I had that idea, the thoughts that followed were, well, don't tell anyone that, Jeremy. That is so stupid. That's just dumb. And if you do that, it means that they broke you. It means you drank the Kool-Aid. It means you're just going to be another hypocritical religious nut job. Get in line, sheep. So I did nothing. And then I drank again. And then I drank again and again. The last time I got drunk, I was drunk for about 2 weeks straight. In the middle of that, it seemed like a really good idea to pick up a bundle of dope. So I was super dope sick for the last 3 or 4 days. I drank through it, nonstop anyway. And I came to, and I was in my parents' upstairs bathroom, and I was puking blood, and stomach bile was coming out of my nose, and it was seeping out of my tear ducts. And I was greatly disturbed, not because this was happening to me. This has happened to me many times before. Is that 2 things in that moment clicked. One, that this time I was surely going to die, for real. The second was, and more disturbing than the first, was I have no idea how to stay sober. It's the only thing that I want to do, and I can't do it. No matter what, I can't do it. And the only thing I could think to do was to call Howard. So Howard was my grand sponsor at the time. He was an elderly gentleman, and he was probably the most spiritual person I had ever met. He greeted everyone with a hug, and the guy was just easy and laid back. And I knew he was, retired, and he was always there, and I'd pick up the phone, I called him, asked him to meet me at the 5:30 meeting several hours early. And this was February. I don't remember how I got over there. I was wearing a cutoff shirt, hadn't showered, shaved, was covered in bodily fluids. And Howard quickly pulled me into one of the side rooms outside the meeting, and we sat down at this little embarrassing little kiddie table, and I told him everything that was going on, everything I was doing. And I told him, I can't stop. I absolutely cannot stop. And Howard made the point-blank declaration that God had done for him what he could not do for himself. And my ideas about miracles were drastically revised right there. So Howard asked me to do the only thing I was never willing to do. He said, pray with me. So I said, okay. So he took my hands and we got on our knees, and I don't know if Howard said anything at all. I don't know if I spoke it or if I thought it. But I know I said, please help me. And I walked out of the room a free man. I've never had the obsession, compulsion, desire to take any other drinks or any other substances from that moment to this. My sobriety day is February 5th, 2011. Quite important was the discovery that spiritual principles would solve all of my problems. I have since been brought into a way of life infinitely more satisfying, and I hope more useful than my last. I've been risen from the scrap heap to a level of life better than the best I've ever known. The whole room got bright. A great weight was lifted from me. And I knew. I just knew. And I woke up the next morning on fire. I was on fire. And I absolutely wanted more of that, and I had no idea how to do it. And I just reemerged to AA, and all I heard was more of the same. That's great, kid. Keep coming. Put the plug in the jug. Shoot for midnight. Meeting makers make it. Just don't drink no matter what. And I was like, I don't think you really get it. I'm cool. Steps, higher power. It's weird, but let's just do it. What's next? Just keep coming. No, I don't, guys, for real this time. Come on, seriously. What's next? And I ran through the halls of Alcoholics Anonymous for 18 months trying to figure out what was next. And I heard again and again, more of the same. Just keep coming, shoot for midnight, meeting makers, make it on and on. Eventually, I ran into a guy whose whole deportment shouted that he was a man with a real answer. The lights were on, and somebody was actually home. It's my buddy Nick, and he was younger than I was, sober twice as long, and like there was just something about that I absolutely had to trust this kid. And he told me about this big book meeting. I was living in Vermont at the time, in Keene, New Hampshire. It was 50 minutes away. Why don't you go there, talk to this guy Bruce. He could probably help you, because I told him what was going on with me. And I met this guy Bruce. He carried a message of depth and weight, and he clearly knew what he was talking about when working the steps out of that book, and I was sold, done. So I asked that guy if he would sponsor me and take me through the work, and he said he would be honored to do so, and he meant it. Like this was like a really big deal for this guy. And then I said, what's next? And Bruce always knew what was next because someone had taken the time to take him through. He said, next I want you to read the doctor's opinion up to page 63 and stop where I tell you to stop. I want you to underline things that are important, significant, stick out to you, circle the words you're not familiar with, look that word up, write the definition in the margin, and when you're all done with that, we'll read it together. I did that, and we're all done. We read it together, and I clearly saw that A, I'm alcoholic and cannot manage my own life, B, that probably no human power can relieve me of alcoholism, and C, that God would, if he were saw it. So I immediately made a decision to do something about it. I made a formal third step prayer on my knees, abandoning myself to God as I then understand him. I don't understand him now, and that's perfectly fine. I immediately put pen to paper. I wrote a fourth step. I have a fantastic memory, and I've been angry and neurotic since birth. So it was 2,200 pages long. When I was all done with it, I read it to my sponsor. It took me 70 hours just to read the thing to him. And I clearly saw I did not want to be that guy anymore, and I was really willing to do something about it. So I asked the only guy on the block who could. So I did it 6 and 7, and I made a list of all people I harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. I went out and made amends to them all. I crossed off every name and I paid back every time. What I do on a daily basis now is I continue to take personal inventory. I write the wrongs as they come up. I open and close my day with prayer and meditation. I do a nightly review every night. And I practice these principles in all my affairs, and I don't really do a great job at it, but I work really, really hard at it, and I think that's the point. I sponsor a bunch of guys in a bunch of different states, and I carry this message, and I don't just do it in meetings. I do it in jails, detoxes, halfway houses, sober houses. I speak at potlucks, roundups, conventions, and plain ordinary whoopee parties. And I've had a spiritual awakening as the result. And I'm not the same. And I have these conversations a lot with my sponsor that, I'm better. I'm not all better. I'm just better, and like the hills and valleys, the ups and downs, the peaks, the lows, they have a tendency to level off. But no matter what, if I stay in the solution on a daily basis and walk with this thing that I call God, I will be okay. And I have a couple of examples of that. So, yeah, we got time. Good. So as I said when I opened up, like one of the more profound resentments was my parents. They're never around. They work late. They don't read to me. They don't help me with homework. I never got a bedtime story. And I think, we got, it was the night before Christmas, during the holidays. That was about it. And I remember when I'm writing this gargantuan 4-step, so I'm always busy in AA, and now I'm around and I'm sober, but my family still doesn't see me. So my sister, who was living on the same piece of property, and my parents were in Vermont, said, we never see you, come over, just have dinner with me. So I said, all right. I didn't want to be there. And I got there, and as soon as I walked in, I was like, I don't want to be here. Like it smelled. She had like this little mangy dog, it smelled. She had this little like toddler running around, it smelled. We're in Vermont, she has a composting toilet, it smelled. I'm just like, ugh. And I literally remember thinking, I'd rather be home writing my 4th step. And, so I sit down, and we're having food and hanging out and whatnot. And, my parents live like a 16th of a mile up the driveway. And she was, really busy, but she was saying how nice it was. Mom and Dad are right there. They can babysit every now and then, and how it's nice that, to have them around. And, they weren't around so much when we were younger. And immediately I hopped on that resentment. I was like, yeah, they weren't. They were never around. They were always working, they didn't care. And I never got a bedtime story. And that's what I had left back in second grade because I was bad at reading, writing, and spelling, blah, blah, blah. And, it just, how do you not read to your kids at night? And then as I'm lamenting my woes of blah, 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 not growing spiritually at all, I hear this little, tug, tug, tug in my pant leg. And I look down. And what I see was this. And I was like, what the heck is this? And what my sister said is, he wants you to read him a story. Okay. So I picked him up, put him on my leg, read him a nice story. He got down, went to the bookshelf, got another story, came back, read another story. It's happened 4 or 5 times. And then somewhere there, I got free. I got really free. I saw that not only did my parents do the best they could, they did a pretty good job. And I saw that my parents worked an awful lot because we were poor and they had to provide for 3 children. So I got my sister, who's only a year and 3/4 older than I am. So then my parents had 3 children in less than 2 years. Not only that, and there was, immense forgiveness and understanding and everything that comes with it, but I would have gladly deprived that small child of something that I felt that had been neglected, simply from spite prior, to this experience. And I got free. Today I have a son of my own. His name is Howard. And I have a daughter, Mabel. She's almost 2, and he's about 3.5. And I'm now divorced. Life gets lifey in AA. And every night that they're with me, I get to read to them. How free do you want to be? Yeah. I had a lot of amazing experiences, going through the steps. And, we're never done, but there is something transformative having to gone all through 12 and continue to work them. Just making amends to my mom was just crazy. I just assumed she would, well, we love you anyway. You did this, this, and this, and just stay sober. And it was not that, I remember I grabbed the book off the shelf and just cut a giant hole in it to hide my weed bowl. And it happened to be her personal Girl Scout handbook. And it was just, she'd gotten really mad at that and a bunch of other things. Amends is a beautiful process. I found that same edition on eBay, brought it to a bookbinder. They kept the exterior and the back and the front pages, ripped out the guts, put in the new ones, and I gave it to her for Christmas. I was 4 or 5 years sober. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff. But there was a personal thing that I can't share because it's being recorded that just burned my mother up, and it made her convinced that everything that happened to me, my deaths, my arrests, my alcoholism, probably drugs, etc., were all her fault due to something that she had done prior to me even being born. And I never knew that. It never would have come up. And I made amends. And, to the best of my ability, I could explain to her how this is not your fault. Now, I may have been born this way. It was pretty obvious to everybody I was born this, just from the get-go. I already told you. But it was not her fault. And that's the crazy thing about alcoholism. It's not my fault I'm alcoholic, but I am personally responsible and accountable for everything I do. And tons of my amends and my inventory had to do before I ever picked up a drink. I'm here because I'm an alcoholic, but so much of my spiritual condition has nothing to do with alcoholism. It was just how it worked really well to treat it, And so, we have these, beautiful experiences going through. And I just scratch my head at why people don't get into the solution and stay there, which is something I wanted to talk about. When I used to live in Massachusetts as well. I've lived in almost every state in New England. And, again, and I was still on fire and carrying this message all over the place. And I got asked to speak at Sober. There's a lot of 12-step structured living in New England, which is a great thing because, 20, 30 years ago, they told me it was different. Just, it was a drying out house and whatnot. But, so I got to speak at a lot of sober houses, especially when I lived in South Shore, Boston. And so I got to go back to these places and sometimes, see a lot of guys that were in there now working there. And, it was a beautiful thing. But I gotta say, I saw a lot. People come in, they make you do the work. They start doing the work, they get on fire too. Their life lights up. They're all about the solution. They're carrying the message. They're sponsoring guys. They're making amends. And then life gets full and they're busy. Maybe they're a little too busy to sponsor guys, or they'll get around to it, or they're coming to like a meeting or two. And what it looks like to me, because what it looks like, I don't know for sure. God only knows. What it looks like to me is eventually what I like to call them the cash and prizes. The cash and prizes become more of sobriety or just life, become more important than, the solution that got them here. It's, the new car, the job, the paycheck, the gym routine, the perfect tan, or the six-pack abs, or, if you're in sober living, perhaps it's new sneakers and a neck tattoo, some girl's name on it. I'm sure that'll last. Not that I judge. It's just like things like this. It just, but the thing with the cash and pride, and there's nothing wrong with these things. I even tell these guys that story as I see them living out this story, and I tell them, and sometimes it's co-ed, mostly it's men, but there's a lot of co-ed sober houses too. And what I say is, like, it's perfectly normal and human to want these things. I want you to want them. It'd be weird if you didn't. The problem is when we pursue that thing in order so that I feel okay inside. If I've done that, with or without my knowledge, I like to think I'm awake these days, but maybe not. I've made that thing my higher power. That thing has become my God, and I have to have it. The only problem is with the cash or prizes is shine always wears off. This new relationship's not fun anymore. This job's not paying me. My boss is a jerk. That guy's got a better car. He's got 3 pairs of new sneakers. I only got 1. Whatever it is, there's shine. If I'm making this thing, the condition of my self-worth, my okayness, filling that void that I always used to fill with drugs and alcohol, shine always wears off. It's never enough. I need more. I need bigger. I need better. God's shine does not wear off. It does not fade. It doesn't wax nor wane. And if I seek that, everything is going to be okay. And that's what I tell them. And that's my experience. This is what it's like, trusting and relying on God. This overall feeling that everything's going to be okay. Now, life got real colorful for me for a few years. I said I'm now divorced. So I was in Massachusetts. We moved. Well, my wife got pregnant. Now ex-wife, got pregnant. We moved to a new state, Rhode Island. I bought a really old house. It's built 9 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So it needed a little work. It's full of crackheads. And as a multifamily. And it's just, with an infant or a baby almost on the way. My baby was born 5 days later. The nation shut down because of COVID. And just, I'm working 20, that's an exaggeration, 12 to 18 hours a day because I'm in food. Nobody can get any food in COVID. And it was just nuts. And like that, plus, selfishness run riot. I was not at my best. And just things, spiraled outward. But did I slump off? Could I have done better? Absolutely. Did I ever stop doing this work? No. So life didn't go the way I wanted it to. It certainly didn't go the way I thought it was going to. And it was real, financial insecurity, just poor mental sex conduct, not exterior, just, just, resentments, had another baby along the way. I don't even know how that happened, but there she is. God bless her, I'm grateful for it, but it's just like this craziness. So, but if I stick to the solution and keep doing what I know, and I have to grow and evolve as part of my spiritual journey. That's been my experience. And it ain't always colorful and it's fun. But the thing is, these are times, if I could just sit around being resentful, woe is me, it's not fair, why does God hate me again, or I could just get through it and know that this will serve me and others, like this event right here, in the future. And that there's always value and worth that comes from everything, even tragic losses, which I don't have time to really talk too much more. I do want to talk about having fun in sobriety before my time is up. Because I thought, I didn't want to drink anymore, but I thought life is just completely over. This is going to be boring. I'm going to hang out with a bunch of losers all the time and just hate life. And it's not actually that much, that much at all. I like to tell this story. I remember the first detox I went to, it was the second or third meeting. It was a Saturday afternoon, and an AA commitment was coming into detox. So right off the bat, I was like, wow, what a bunch of losers, got nothing better to do on a Saturday afternoon than come into a detox. And there was this panel, I think it was all women. It was a panel of women, and they were going through and talking about, AA and life, and, some of their drinking experiences, mostly they're trying to sell me on how awesome Alcoholics Anonymous is, and I'm not buying. And they're going through, and we got to this last woman who's sharing, and I remember to this day, I can see it right now, and God bless this woman, she was ranting and going on, oh, sobriety is great, oh, Alcoholics Anonymous is so much fun, oh, this is the greatest thing, we go bowling! Like bowling? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's what you got for me? Bowling? Like, I did a lot of, drinking in Europe. They called it study abroad, potato. And like, I'd be in these countries and drinking in clubs with half-naked girls swinging from the ceiling in cages, and I'm supposed to give that up for bowling? Are you kidding me? So truth be told, I've gone bowling many times in sobriety. I had a really good time. Go bowling. We did it today. I swear to God, I did it this afternoon in Philly. So what I didn't know, especially in early sobriety, is I didn't have to be entertained and elated at all times in order to feel good. Because, drinking is very much like that. So I didn't get that. I also didn't know that fun can just come about. It can be created. You don't actually have to do X, Y, Z in order to feel good, have fun, feel joy, bliss, all these things. No idea. And more important than fun and feeling good is today I have a life of value and substance. Even more important than that, I have a sense of purpose and direction. I never had that. I can even remember not having that as a kid. Just feel like can anyone relate, just like wandering through life? I have no clue what life is about. I don't know where I'm going, what I'm doing, why am I even here? I don't even want to be here as like an 8-year-old. And now I have a sense of purpose and direction. Not just in AA, but I think it comes from AA and that spiritual life. And that's what, that's the real good juice. And I just would have missed it waiting around to try and feel good. Or someone to make me feel good. So I can't recommend the solution out of the big book enough. I highly recommend it. If you are somewhere amongst the process, I just recommend you continue. If you're reading, keep reading. If you're writing, keep writing. If you're trudging, just keep trudging. And remember, the force will be with you. Always. That's all I got. God bless. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Brian. I'm an alcoholic. First and foremost, I want to thank Jeremy for coming out here tonight, delivering an incredible message of hope and recovery. A couple quick announcements, and we'll wrap it up here. Again, the food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock every week, so feel free to show up early, join us. We put the refreshments out. We usually have hot dogs, donuts, coffee, so feel free to come early and join us. If you do want to get involved with this group, there's always a lot of moving parts, setting up the meeting, getting things together, so there's service positions available for this group. We also have service work at hospitals and institutions, kind of things in the area. We have a running commitment tomorrow night up in Quakertown. So if you're interested in doing something like that, getting out there on the front lines and delivering a message of hope and recovery, you can see me, see any home group member after the meeting. There is always a meeting after the meeting, so if you want to help us out with some service work, we can always use help putting away the chairs. But more importantly, if you're out there, if you're new, you're struggling, hang out with us after the meeting. We'd love to talk to you, get you into the solution a little bit. It is customary for us to thank our speakers as they come here on their own time and expense. So usually we form a line and we thank our speakers personally. Worth mentioning too, and Ron just mentioned this to me, we normally go out, a group of us have gone out to a meeting up in Telford on Friday nights, and we all go bowling afterwards. We started this up a couple of months ago, so to give a little plug for that, it's something we've been doing for the past couple months, but if you'd be interested in that, again, see us after the meeting. If you're interested, we'd love to give you some meeting, get involved with you. But thanks to everybody for helping out with the meeting night. Thanks to our chairperson. Thanks to our greeters, our readers. Thanks to Deb for taking care of the kitchen back there. And most importantly, let's thank our speaker, Jeremy, one more time. And if you do care to join us, we have a nice way of closing. And we will close down the meeting, as always, with a brief moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver